All right, everybody, what's going on? What's going on? This your man Griff. Get right on into this here tonight, today, this evening, whatever time you're looking at this video. I'm going to be doing doc presentation. I'm just going to go over a set of documents. I've been trying to find time to actually just look a little janky there. I've been trying to find time to like sit down and do a mock document presentation. Um, Between doing the signings and talking with notaries, helping them out, I honestly haven't had time to really sit down and do that. So this weekend started yesterday, Saturday, today's Sunday when I'm doing this video. I just sat down and said, okay, let me just pull up a document. I found one from like 2 years ago, and I said, let me just modify that document for y'all and everything so that and then just go through it, because one of the things that I've been hearing repeatedly is notaries saying, well, I would go out and I would take an order, but I don't know where the signer's supposed to sign. I don't know where I'm supposed to sign. And to me, I'm like, that's not that difficult, because it's clear. If you've done a loan before, your own loan, any kind of loan application, it has where you are, as the borrower, supposed to sign. So it shouldn't be hard for anybody to notice that, oh, they signed here. And keep in mind, the loan company is not going to make it difficult for them to sign by hiding or making it cryptic where the signer is supposed to sign. 98% of the documents you're going to be able to figure out, not even just figure it out, you're going to see this is where they need to sign. At least 98% of the time. The other 2%, there are a few occasions where they just have a line and they don't have anybody's name there, but it's clear that they need to sign it because at the top of the loan, at the top of the document, it has their name. So 90% of the time, it's clear as day. 2% of the time, you might have to put a little bit of thought power behind it. But 100% of the time, there's going to be a spot for them to sign. That's 100% of the time. And on the off chance that 100% down to 99, then you just have them sign the document as long as their signature is on there. And I will say, there have been maybe 2 times where I saw a document that was in there, and it wasn't even a part of the loan. It wasn't even a loan doc. It was just some document that they had in there that they needed them to sign. And it was like a statement that they made concerning something probably the underwriter wanted, and they signed it. But they didn't have a signature line on there, but you can tell they needed them to sign it, or there was instructions for them to sign that, stating that they saw this document, and yep, this document is my statement that I gave via email. So it still stands 100% of the time. There's going to be a spot for them to sign on those documents. They may not have to sign every single page, but whatever page they need to sign, it's going to be a spot for them to sign. It's that simple. I know that the document presentation is the #1 thing that most notary trainers teach you to do. And I've come to the conclusion that here's what's going on. And I'm going to get to the documents in a second. But what's going on is that when you take training with the NNA, they teach you the proper way to notarize the documents. When you take training with these notary trainers or loan signing trainers, and it don't matter who, okay? It really, really doesn't matter who. What they are typically teaching you is how to do document presentation and how to run a notary or a loan signing business. And they're going to defer and refer you to who? The National Notary Association, for your state specific ways of notarizing. So in all essence, you're really not getting trained in some cases on how to properly notarize the documents, which is what you're there for. Okay. You're there for to notarize the documents. The loan company did not bring you in specifically to say, here, we want somebody that can present the documents. We need somebody who can, show them where the escrow breakdown is, and someone can show them where the origination fee is. That is not why they got you there. They got you there to ensure that they sign those documents correctly and for you to notarize them, which is your purpose, okay? Period. That's why the NNA calls us what? Notary signing agents, because we're there to do notary work over and above the loan signing concept or idea that a lot of people are pushing. You can call yourself whatever you want, but when you really look at it, if the notary trainers or loan signing trainers are really there training us how to do document presentation, how to run a notary or a loan signing business, but they're deferring us to the NNA for state-specific and proper ways of notarization, or telling us we need to take the Notary Essentials course from the NNA, I would prefer to call myself a notary signing agent, because at the end of the day, that is what I'm there to do. Period. Another thing, and this is something I've been asking as I've been talking to probably about 4 or 5 notaries this weekend. When you do your document presentation, however you may do it, whether a deep dive document presentation, whether a simple, straight to the point, just giving them the title of the document, or whether a medium one where you give them the title of the document and you just give them a brief like, hey, this here is the title of the document, and you read a paragraph or maybe a few lines of the sentence, or you give a summary of it, or however you do it. Ask yourself this. Now, well, I'm asking you this, so you ain't got to ask yourself. I'm asking you this. At each time you're at that loan closing, doing your document presentation, how many times is the signing company or title company present with you to see you do that? How many times, how often do they see you actually do the document presentation? I've done over 900 signings, probably about 930, 940 right now. And there has not been one time through a signing company. Now, of course, if you're direct, you might be in an office with them and they might see you, but we're going to stick with the signing companies. And even still, some of these direct companies, because not every time you do a signing, you're going to be going into an office. So any signing that you've done outside of an office, have they really been watching you and seeing you do your document presentation of the loan package? The answer is no. When will any of these loan signing companies, you're in Texas, they're in California, are they sending somebody there to watch you and to ensure that you present, meaning verbally present and say such and such about the documents prior to the person signing when you're doing it, when you're doing the loan closing? The answer is simply no, they're not. So if they're not watching you present the documents, how will they know that you're good at what you do? How will they know? How will a signing company, how will a title company, how will a loan officer know that you're any good at your job of doing a closing? They won't, because they don't watch you, they don't see you, and you can't say, well, if they do a quality control check, the signer will tell them. Will they? Will they really tell them that, oh yeah, Griff, he presented the documents and he said this and he explained that? All they want to do is get the thing done and make sure they're getting their money back and all of that. That's it. How will a signing company know
that you did your job well? What is the one way that they will know? And at this point, many of you already answered that question to yourself. The only way that a company would know that you did your job well is when they get the documents back and all the signatures are there and you notarize it correctly. That's the only way that anybody will know that you did what you're supposed to do. Well, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Get the document signed properly and notarized properly. This past week, I received several phone calls from notaries who, based off of listening to them and talking, no issues presenting the documents. Very confident in doing that. However, they made some errors in the notarial sections that had they not called somebody, and in this case, that somebody was me, but had they not called anybody or talked to somebody, they would have sent back those documents with the notarial area completely incorrect. That's just the truth of the matter. And we talk, and they know the mistake that they made. For whatever reason, they misunderstood something. So that's when I got to thinking. I said, the only way a company's going to know you did any good or your worth, have some kind of value, that what you're charging was worth you charging that and them paying it, is when they get the documents back and they're notarized properly. And if you are not notarizing the documents properly, the company is not, the signing company, they're not going to give you a pass because they say, well, you know what, hey, we get it. You forgot to stamp 3 of the documents. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. We good because you did a good job at presenting the documents. You knew them documents and you was able to break them things down. And when the signer had a question, you was able to answer that question and you didn't have to call us and, and you showed them bang, 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 bang. Even though you didn't know, even though you didn't stamp 3 of the documents, even though you printed your name where it said Notary Public, you didn't sign your name like you're supposed to, but that's okay because you presented the documents well. Where it said acknowledged before me on this date by, should have been John Jones and James Jones. After the by, you put your name. You said this document was, this foregone instrument was acknowledged before me on this day by Stephen Griffin, not the person who actually signed the document. You put the wrong person's name in the acknowledgement area for who actually signed the document, but that's okay. You presented the documents very, very well. And we're not going to deduct your pay. We're not even going to ask you to go out there and fix that. Man, please. What you get in trouble with is not so much, the only time, let me back it up. The only time you get in trouble with your document presentation is if you start running off at the mouth and saying something that will cause the signers to not sign. Think back on the NNA exam. When you see stuff in there talking about interest rates and you start running off at the mouth about interest rates, you start running off at the mouth about terms, you start giving your own opinion, you start saying ... stuff that you really shouldn't be saying, that's when you get in trouble because the signer turn around and say, you know what? Yeah, we got this 3-day right to cancel. That notary said something about, he saw with the same company that somebody got a 1.9 interest rate and they're giving us a 2.3. Nah, I want the 1.9. I want to know why you couldn't give me the 1.9. You know what? Then I'm canceling the loan. Forget y'all. I'm gonna go somewhere else. You cause them to lose money. That's when you get in trouble with your document presentation. And there are notaries out there who have done that. They have ran off at the mouth about the loan, about what they've seen, what they've heard, and it has gotten them in trouble. So if you notarize correctly, no errors, but you run off at the mouth and cause somebody to say, you know what, I don't want this loan because the notary said that they saw a 1.9 or 1.7, and there is a 1.7 out there. I've heard about it and I've seen a 1.8. Nah, I don't want this, and then they lose the business. That'll get you in trouble. But besides that, let's say you keep your mouth quiet, you don't do anything. The only thing that can really get you in trouble is if you don't notarize the documents properly. You don't have them sign the documents properly. You don't have them date the documents when they're supposed to date it. That is the thing that becomes an issue. So I said all of that because this past week, that is what I've been hearing. Been hearing it loosely over the last couple of weeks, but most definitely this past week, people have not been notarizing documents correctly. They're still not stamping because they don't see the word stamp or seal next to their name where they're signing. Some notaries have actually, because it didn't say signature at the notary public line, so it has notary public, and I'm going to show you an example in the documents I'm going to be presenting to you. It says signature, and then there's a line, and under the line it says notary public. And because it did not say signature on the next notarial acknowledgement area, even though it said notary public, but it did not say signature, some people did not sign or will not sign, and they just print their name there. That is not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be signing. And again, these people have taken training from a variety of sources. So it's not a thing of they didn't take training. They took training. But if your focus is on the document presentation aspect and not the actual loan closing, y'all, I don't know why. All day my throat been good, and as soon as I get on here talking with y'all, it wants to act up. I'm serious. I have not coughed none today. Been good. So chop down on a Ricola. All right. Not getting paid for saying that. Okay. So that is what's been going on. So I'm going to show y'all this document that I've redacted, changed the names in it, all of that kind of stuff. Change the address. So the address you see, the name you see, all of that is fake. If you see a birth date, the birth date is fake. All of that stuff is fake. Okay, so that's the way it is. All right. So this is a loan document, and just going over the document, fake address, John Q. Public. That's not a real person. If it is, sorry, John. So in some documents, you'll have the line of credit. Now, one of the things that throws people off is this right here, where it says to is blank. Well, that's the bank. That is more like that's going to be to the bank that they are closing the credit line out. And then the loan number, they will fill that out. Now, if for some reason the signer or you have issue with that being blank, then you can just contact them and say, hey, do we need to fill this out? I want to put the information in there. And they'll tell you either yay or nay. Majority of the time, they always tell me, say, no, this is just them signing this, acknowledging that they've seen this. Now, this is a one-person document, so it's only going to be one signer. Now, as you see in this here, and this here is a standard like a business letter. This is basically a business letter with the title, the date, the to, the subject, all of that kind of stuff. This lending bank, this is really the from. So there will be whoever the lending bank is, the subject address, the property, the loan number, all of that kind of stuff. And then it's telling them, hey, ... closing this stuff out, all of that. And then the person signs it. Okay, they sign it and then they date it. Line of credit closeout. So if I'm presenting this document, I say, here's your line of credit closeout. And I'm going to share with you this, the way I'm going to be talking about these documents from a new notary standpoint. You just got the documents 30 minutes before you're signing. You haven't had a chance to look them over. They're paying you $175 to get this done because it has to close the day. Normally they pay 85, but they got to get this thing done because the other notary that was supposed to do it got sick, backed out, didn't show, whatever the case may be. And now they're asking you to get it done because you live 15 minutes from them and they said, we need you now. Or you live 45 minutes from them and all of the notaries who they prefer to use are not available. So they go down the list. You had responded early in the day, yeah, I can do this order. They didn't pick you. And now they're looking through all the people who responded. You're next on the list. All right, time for you to get off the bench, pull your warm-ups off. Let's get in the game and hit some threes. So you don't have time to go through this. The way I would present it is, how you doing, Mr. Public? This here is your line of credit closeout. This is them doing the attention to payoff department. So they're paying off your existing mortgage or any other lines of credits that you may have. Please feel free to read over the document. And if you have any questions, just ask me. And if I'm able to answer them, I will. If I don't know the answer off the top of my head, because as a notary, I'm limited in what I can share with you, we can get the loan officer on the line. Okay, thank you, Griff, no problem. That's that document. Now, affidavits, anything that's an affidavit needs to be notarized. It has up here the property, title number, I delete all of that. And then it says here, to be filled in person by the seller or borrower in his or her own handwriting. So they are to fill this out as a state in their own handwriting. The indemnity and affidavits as to the debt, liens, possessions, continuous marriage, all of that. And if there's multiple parties, you can use a separate form for each one. And then you do the swear in, however your state says. And then this here says they appear personally known to me to be the person whose name is subscribed here to, and upon his or her oath deposes and says that no proceedings in bankruptcies or receivership have been instituted by or against him or her, and that the marital status of the affiant has not changed since the day of acquisition of said property and represents the purchaser and the lender in this transaction, that there are none of this stuff here below. They're basically saying, and I don't read all of this to them. I'm just telling straight up, I tell them here, this is affidavit, and the overall arching concept of this document, this here indemnity and affidavit as to debts, liens, possessions, and continuous marriage is stating that you've been continuously married, if it's a couple, since the day of the acquisition of the property, and represent to the purchaser and to the lender in this transaction that there are no legal issues with the property. You don't have any unpaid debts. You don't have any kind of judgments. You don't have any labor or materials. And I tell them, I said, that's all I say. And then I say, please read over the rest of this. And if this is not applicable, you're good. There are no unpaid debts. And if you can say there's no unpaid debts for this stuff, it's no. If there are, then you need to list who the creditor is. That's why they're doing it in their own handwriting. You list who it is and the approximate amount that you owe them. That's simple. No loans, judgments, federal, state liens, child support judgments. No, there aren't any. Boom. Any labor materials, ... There are none. If there were, they would print them down there legibly. And then this here says about they agree to pay on demand to the purchasers or lenders or title companies, ... Whatever else. They read all of that. If everything's good to go, then they sign, they date. And if the content down here, if this here acknowledgement area is what your state requires, then you use it. If not, if this isn't the right verbiage for your state, then you reach out, then you get a all-purpose acknowledgement, in this case a jurat, and you attach it. So you don't use this, they sign and date it, but then you use the proper acknowledgement or jurat that has the proper verbiage for your state. Simple, okay? Survey for special, affidavit for special survey coverage. Again, another affidavit that needs to be signed by them and that you need to notarize. And then now, some people will do one swear-in for everything. Some people do a swear-in for each one. Whatever your state requires you to do, that's what you do. I'm not going to tell you how to do all of that. I'm not even going to say what the language is. That is your responsibility to figure that out. And then push come to shove, you always can reach out to the NNA. That's why instead of paying somebody $250 a month for mentorship, put that money into paying for a membership with the NNA so that they can be available to you on the hotline and answer you some questions. and for about $200, you can have a 4-year membership with the NNA. So, borrower of full age being duly sworn and deposes and says that we reside at the described property above. We are the owners of the said property, and the said property is not subject to this land contract and all of that, and that there are no other tenants except sometimes it might be an investment property, and then they put the tenant's name down there. And then they talk about here, there's no judgments or encumbrances, that we are unaware. So meaning we do not know of any of this stuff. Then this here is saying there has not been any disputes with any neighbors with respect to any structures or property line. So they're attesting, affirming affidavit that there is no issues. So simply put, this here affidavit for special survey coverage is again just stating that there are no legal issues and there's no property disputes with the property. Please read through each one of the statements. And if the answer is if you can agree that this is not applicable to you, then you will sign and date. Number 6, they have to put when they purchased the property. They've owned the property since whatever date. Some people don't know the exactly day of the month, or it's like the 6th, the 12th, or whatever. So you can ask them, please put down the month or the year. If you want, you can actually go into Zillow and look it up, and Zillow a lot of times will have it in there. Number 7 is if the person's spouse has passed on, and then they can fill this out appropriately. If not, you just leave it blank. They sign, they date. And now notice in here it says seal. A lot of notaries, if they see this, oh, I need to seal. If that word is not there, they won't stamp. If you are filling this out as an affidavit or the acknowledgement, you need to sign and stamp it. The NN4 is for the state that you're in. Most people right here will say, wait a minute, I can't notarize this because the state and county isn't down there. It's on the document up here. It is on the document up here. So the state of, the county of is right there, and then boom. Sometimes it'll be down here, sometimes they put it up there, and sometimes it will be in both locations. If you are concerned, you can attach an all-purpose acknowledgement or jurat so that you can have it the way you believe it should be. Okay. This here, errors and omissions. The bottom line is simply this. Errors and omissions is this person agreeing to cooperate with the title, escrow, lender, or agent, or whoever, if there's clerical errors or any other type of corrections or things that have been omitted and they need to be fixed. So they are saying you have, as it says here, sorry about that, 15 days from the date of said request to reply or to comply. They have to comply. So the undersigned borrower agrees to comply within the above noted request within 15 days of from the date of said request. So all this here is errors and omissions and compliance agreement, you're agreeing to work with them to fix anything that has been clerically wrong or anything that has been omitted. That's it. You don't have to read this whole thing to them. You don't have to give them some kind of history behind this document at all. And then they sign and date it. This is agreement to pay escrow. All this document is simply saying, if for some reason the lender did not give the existing or the current company that's coming up the proper information on unpaid taxes and sewer charges and all of that kind of stuff, and if they told them, hey, for basically, here's all the fees, and the fees come out to $5,000, and in this case, this company, Closing USA, is the title company or the closing company, and then they go to pay those fees, and then come to find out there's an additional $2,000 that needed to be paid. You're going to, as it says here, hold them harmless, and you're going to cover that. You're going to make sure that those things get paid. So if there's money that needs to get paid, you, the borrower, is going to ensure that it gets paid, because if the existing lender did not properly give the title company or the closing company the right information in order for them to pay the bills or pay that escrow and those closing costs correctly, you are responsible, because it's your loan, it's your property, okay? That's all this is. The way I would say it, this is your agreement to pay escrow. If there's any money, if there's any shortages of what needed to be paid for closing, you're responsible for ensuring that those things get covered. Simply put. And then you ask them to read that, and they can read this. Now, let me stop here. If for some reason your signer or signers start talking about, let me come back to y'all for a moment. If they start talking things like, explain this to me. What do you mean, sir? What am I signing here? What is this document? It is the agreement to pay the escrow. What are you talking about? I thought y'all was taking care of it. I thought that what you need to do is encourage them to read the document. Sir, please read the document. Please read the document so you can understand what it's talking about. And after you read the document, if there's anything you do not understand, please share that with me, and then I can make a determination of how I can answer that, or whether I can answer that, or if we need to get the loan officer on the phone. One of the things people will tend to do is they will think that you are an employee of the loan company, and you are not. So what I tend to do is I ask them to read the document for themselves to ensure that they have an opportunity to understand it. If they read it and they still don't understand, then instead of trying to explain stuff, because they may understand certain things but not something else, then the question is, okay, well, what don't you understand, sir or ma'am? Please communicate to me what you don't understand about what you just read. Well, I just don't understand none of it. Okay, if you don't understand any of it, let me get the loan officer on the phone so y'all can discuss this and that they can help you understand it. Now, for some notaries, you're like, nah, I'm gonna break it down to them. I'm gonna do what you want to do. I'm gonna be honest with you, do what you want to do. One of the things that I have experienced, there has never been a loan officer that has got upset with me, fussed at me, questioned me about why I was contacting them concerning their client. Because most of the loan officers always tell their client, hey, during the closing, if you have any questions or any concerns, give me a call. Because that guy don't know, or that lady, that loan officer does not know who I am, and they don't know how I'm going to come in there and what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do. So I come in there and I start talking some crazy stuff. Hey, call me. Because I'm independent of the process. I don't work for any of them. So I don't know what's been going on with this loan for the past 2, 3, 4 months that they've been working on it. So the loan officer wants to ensure that his people aren't getting swayed away from signing. So case in point, last week, had a signing, get there, The lady was going off, started going off over a 38-cent change in the closing disclosure. What she was given, what I had presented to them, had a 38-cent change on one line item. Then she found a dollar change item and then another change item. Stuff that where what she was paying was higher on her document was now lower on the one that I gave her. Was going off. She reached out to the loan officer. He didn't answer, he didn't pick up the phone. They got voicemail. I said, well, let me give them a try. I started texting them, saw a text string come up that I've already been communicating with this loan officer before. I texted them, said, hey, this is Griff the Notary. Yes, I say that. I say, this is Griff the Notary for so-and-so. They have questions concerning the closing costs. Can you please call them? Within 30 seconds, he was calling them. They put them on speaker. And I always ask them to put them on speaker if they don't. And the reason why is so that I can hear what the loan officer is saying. Because when you listen to what the loan officer is saying and how they break stuff down, that's how you garner some real knowledge and information about the document. That's why I prefer to refer to the loan officer than me trying to be the one to be the oracle of knowledge concerning these loan docs. Because I don't know what they've discussed. I don't know what the terms and conditions are surrounding this loan. So I put it back on the loan officer, and not even really putting it back because that's his role or her role anyway. Now, will a signing company or a title company get upset with you for calling and asking questions? Yeah, because they want you to they want it to look like you 100% know what you're doing and there's no issues, there's no concern, there's no hiccups. But I've never had a loan officer fuss at me, text me, get on me for referring or deferring to them. After they got all that stuff straight, told them what was deal, the loan, next thing I know, I get a text message. It's that loan officer saying, hey, thank you for the help, appreciate it. And he said, I remember we worked together before on another one. I said, yep, I remember you, sir, too. Glad to work with you, can't wait to work with you again. So now that loan officer knows that out of all the notaries in this area, if I ever have a problem, if there's ever a concern or problem with the paperwork or with the signers, they know that if Griff is involved, they're going to get the right response. They're going to have me contact them and not try to sit here and finagle it myself. Okay, so I defer to them. And if they have any questions, I say, explain to me what you need to know, excuse me, or what you don't know. Well, I just don't understand why this document is in here. I mean, what is this document here for? Okay, I'm not here to express, break down the history of it, sir. If you really need to know the reason why this document here, the purpose, I mean, is it something in the document that's making you concerned or that making you iffy about signing the loan? Do you not want to sign the loan? What is the concern? Well, I mean, I just see this document. I just don't understand the purpose of it or why it's here. Now, at that point, you can try to rectify, calm them down, try to come up with something that will be acceptable to them. But the concern I have is that if they're already taking the stuff incorrect, they're not getting it. And then I try to come with an explanation. And I've had people do that. They're like, I tried in the beginning, would try to explain what the reason for this document is because, well, that still don't make sense to me. And then it got worse. So I said, you know what? Loan officer. Title. I said, well, how about you give your loan officer a call? Now, some of them, they get to a point, well, I don't really want to call them. I just want you to answer it. And there are some notaries, some signers that are very difficult and semi-difficult and lightly difficult. And that will put all the onus back on you. Like, well, you're the notary, so you work for this company, right? So just explain it to me. No, I don't work for them. Oh, you don't? No, I am not an employee of them. Then what's your role in all of this? My role is to present the documents to you And presentation can be either detailed, lightly detailed, or just the title of the document. My job is to ensure that you present you the documents, bring the documents to you, present them to you, and ensure that you sign these documents correctly and that I notarize them correctly so that your loan can be processed in time. If you have questions about why, who, whatever, and you can ask me any question, but if I don't understand it, then I'm gonna have to defer to the loan officer to ensure that you get the correct answer that you desire. Then they're like, oh, okay, cool. And yes, I can set the tone in the beginning, tell them all of that, but there are signers who don't listen, who don't care, and they're going to demand that you ask them. Some signers want people to read to them. They want some people to just pander to them, and you have to be on guard for all of that. And then there's just some signers that like to pick with notaries. They used to be a notary themselves, and they like to pick. They used to work in the mortgage industry, and they like to pick. That's out there. So moving on, privacy policy, simply put, talks about how they ensure what information they collect and how they protect your privacy. Their signature. Now this document here is some information sheet that comes from the title company or the closing company. And a lot of times they stick this all the way in the middle. Now, in this case, it's at page 7, but this was a 132-page document, and I took out a lot of the non-pertinent stuff for as closing instructions and all of that. This document is always pushed like almost to the end of the document. I mean, the document, the loan packet. So when I do a closing USA, and there's nothing wrong with this company at all, nothing at all. I'm serious, nothing at all. And I really do like their documents a whole lot. I pull this document out and then I have them fill this out. And what I tend to do is I have them, while they're filling this out, I'll be doing the Patriot Act. And I will get the Patriot Act done while they're filling this out. And if I haven't had time to prep the documents, then I will go through and get like the signature affidavit set up and all of that. I'll put my dates in there and everything. And then once they do their signature, then I'll sign it and stamp. Sometimes I'll go ahead on and start, predating or, dating the other acknowledgments that are in the document, because this will take probably, depending on the couple and what information they need to, they have to put on here, which we see, it could take them 10 minutes to do. It really could, because they don't remember all the places they live. If they're military and they've been in multiple places for like 2 years or 3 years, well, and they need 10 years worth, that's going to take a while. They got to look in addresses up, all of that kind of stuff. So I pull this up to the front. After I collect the IDs and put it in my logbook, then I do this. And I get them to do this next, okay? Affiliated business arrangement. All this here is a list of companies that are part of the process and the range of fees that they normally charge. That is it. That's all this is. Now, here's what's kicker. Here's the kicker. This also has been tearing up some notaries. They look at this document and then they get down here to the bottom and it says borrower. It just says borrower. And some people won't have them sign this because it doesn't have the name there. They're like, the name not there. Sometimes, let's see if I can do this. Sometimes on these documents, especially on documents like this, they will just have a line there and no name at all, no borrower, co-borrower, nothing. So that can sometimes happen. That can sometimes happen in these documents. Now, how do you say, well, who's supposed to sign here? At the standard business letter at the top, it says John Q. Public, and it may say Jane Q. Public. They both need to sign this. These are title documents. These are documents that's coming from the title company. Now, here's where it gets tricky, and I know this video is going to be long, so please bear with me, y'all. If she's not on the loan, or he's not on the loan, if somebody's not on the loan, meaning on the note or the promissory note, you may still see their name listed here as borrower, even though they're not responsible for the loan. On the title document, sometimes they don't say borrower slash co-borrower, and then down here they just say borrower, co-borrower, or borrower and non-borrower. They don't. Sometimes they won't denote that. On these title documents, if that person's name is up here, they need to sign at the bottom. If there's questions about it, you contact the title company, the closing company, whoever created the document, and you ask them, hey, they have concerns about signing this document because they're not on a loan, but you have them listed here as a borrower. And I contact them, we discuss it out. Basically, they're going to tell them, this is a title document. This is just want to make sure that you acknowledge that you've seen this because your name is on the mortgage. Yes, you're not a borrower. You don't owe the money for the house, but this is just our standard form. And this is just the way our form is. So they're basically saying they ain't gonna change it just for that. So they have to sign that. Then this document here is okay, somebody's in the hospital. Okay. Hold on, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know I got, one of the notaries just contacted me, said that they're in the hospital. So, okay. Sorry about this, y'all. Thanks for the update. What I can do. All right. Yeah, person up there in Michigan, one of our notary subscribers and all of that. So, okay. So this is the Alta Statement, American Land Time Association Settlement Statement. Simply put, all I do is say, this is the debit side of everything that needs to be paid. This is the credit side of the money that you're borrowing to pay the debit side. And then down here at the bottom is the difference between the two of money coming to you or from you, okay? All right, thank you for letting me know, yeah. So this is the money coming from you or to you, or there's no money owed on either end. Now, with this document, a lot of people will get deep into this and break things down, talk about discount points, interest prepaid, all of that kind of stuff. I don't go into all of that. The impound is another word for escrow, and then they start breaking all of that down. I don't do all of that. I'm just being real with you. I don't, because a lot of the people, they just read it for themselves. They read this document for themselves, and I don't sit here and say, well, here's the settlement fee, here's the title fee, here's a this fee. I don't do that, okay? I really don't do that. I don't go in here and break this stuff down and spend 5-10 minutes covering each and every single line item. A lot of this stuff is covered by the loan officer with them on the closing disclosure. And that's, I'm just making sure she's okay. So people will go through that, and on the title, on the closing disclosure is where they cover a lot of that with them. Sometimes they'll give them the alter, but typically they will give them just this closing disclosure. And now I've been hearing signers saying they've been looking at these documents online before I even get them. So a day before, whatever, they actually see this. And then they will sign here and date. Now this Jane Public, I just put that there. That's somebody else. That was I think the closer. So I should have put a different name there. So the US Patriot Act, another document that is getting notaries in some hot water, because the notaries are having the signer, the borrower, sign down here and print the name, and this is for you. And only title they want, a lot of people fuss back and forth about whether it should be a notary or notary signing agent or loan signing agent. Most companies ask just to put notary. I mean, that's who you are. The person who did this is the notary. Whatever title you want to put is up to you. The most important thing is that you sign it, you date it, you put your name, you put some kind of title, and this information up here is properly filled out. And in this case, as it says, we require one primary form of identification for each borrower to comply with Section 326 of the Act. Of what Act? The US Patriot Act. Sometimes they'll say two. Whatever they ask for, you make sure it gets done. And I love it when they only want one. Since 2020, they've been really just asking for one. Some companies still want two. It's that simple. This is not for them to sign. This is for you. This is not for them to fill out. This is for you, period. You don't notarize this. There's nothing for you to notarize. I've only seen one time where they had the borrower sign and they had an acknowledgement statement on the US Patriot Act, and I still don't understand why they did that. And they may have done that to ensure that the notary signed the document, because the notary probably wasn't doing it. And then signature affidavit. Now, down here, it says witness my hand and official seal. So most notaries say, oh, I need to put my seal. They see signature. Oh, I need to sign here. I believe that some of these companies, they're putting signature on certain documents to ensure that the notary signs it in cursive and not print their name. That's what I believe. But it says here, this here's the verbiage. For Virginia, I believe, yeah, this here should suffice. I believe this suffices for Virginia because it has their name in there, all of that. We good. Shouldn't be too many questions about this. They sign here, they date there. And as you should be able to see, it's clear where the people are to sign. It's not hidden, it's not cryptic, it's not, well, I need to figure out where they need to sign. And I still don't understand why people keep saying that they need to figure out where they need to sign. And I'm like, okay, if you took some kind of training and you're saying that you can't figure out or you don't know where they need to sign, then you're gonna be in trouble, because it's not hidden where they need to sign. They're not going to make this difficult. And I'm not belittling anybody or trying to make anybody feel bad, but it's just, I'm like, okay, why don't you know, or why do you feel that you can't figure that out? Because it's clear. Now, this is the deed of trust. What I did with this is I only have the first page and the signature page where they signed and I notarized. All the other pages I took out. In Virginia, they call it deed of trust. Sometimes they just say deed. Well, one of the two, I forget which one, but their name. And then this here is the signature area. Borrower, they sign, county, all of that, then you sign and you date. Now, if you notice and you put your expiration, there is nothing over here that says seal, stamp, but you still put your seal, you still put your stamp there. You still stamp it. And a lot of notaries think that because there's nothing spoken over here that says stamp, they don't have to stamp. If you're filling this out and you're signing this, you need to stamp. This is the signature line. Because if you know that they're supposed to sign this and it doesn't say signature, why don't you think you need to sign this because it doesn't say signature? It is to be in cursive. That is what you're supposed to do. And then you fill this out. I've seen documents where notaries don't fill this out. That's up to you or your state, period. But this here is the notarial acknowledgement area for the deed. Now, as you see, in this case, they have put the names there. What's been also happening is it says this foregoing instrument was acknowledged before me on this date by, and there would be no name there. And the notary would think that they're supposed to put their name there. No, you put the person up here who acknowledged it. Their signature there is acknowledgement. And you're down here acknowledging that this person was the one who acknowledged it in front of you. They acknowledged that ... on this date by, not you, them, because it does not make sense to say the foregoing instrument was acknowledged before me, and the me is the notary on this February 14, 2021 by Stephen Christopher Griffin III, and then I'm signing my name. That doesn't make sense. That is not you. That is them. Period. There's no questions about that. You do not put your name after by. It is their name. Okay? And then you sign it and then you stamp it. This is a condominium rider. A lot of times you have this when there's like a homeowner association. Right here says owners association. So if there's a homeowners association, it gives lists of covenants and agreements between the borrower, lender, and further covenants and all of that about the about the homeowners association. That's all this is. And then they sign it dated. I mean, if you can't find, you can clearly see, I'm not being funny. That's what they need to sign. It's not hidden, it's not cryptic. Then this is assumability. VA loans are not assumable, meaning people can't just take them over just because they have to go through a process or whatever. I don't know what the process is, don't care what the process is. This loan is not assumable without the approval of the Veteran Affairs or his authorized agent. That's all I say to them. I say the loan, this is your assumption letter, basically saying that nobody can take over the loan without the VA's approval. And most people already know that because they've been told that over and over again. Oh man, sorry about that, just a little tired. And then they sign it. Now, if you notice on these last couple, there's no date field. If there's no date field, they don't date it. And I hope I'm not going too fast, y'all. Then you got the promissory note. I don't know about all this here, Foothill Ranch, California. I don't know anything about that or why. Maybe that's where this company is at. I think that's it. I think, yeah, they might be there. On the promissory note, you can point out the interest rate, when the first payment is due, when the last payment is due, and the principal and interest payment that they're promising to pay. And then it goes through all of this stuff for the note. And then they sign no date, okay? Not a majority of the document, the promissory notes don't have a date, and there are some that will put date there. And I know one time I didn't have them dated because they say don't date the note, and I got in trouble because it didn't get there. They said, well, the date field was there. I was like, well, normally you don't date the note, but the date field was there. Got it. Occupancy statement. All this is saying that this person is the owner. It's an owner occupied property. That's it. And that they will be occupying the property within 60 days after closing, as required by and in compliance with the terms of the deed of trust and all of that. If it was a second home, you would check, they would check that. If it's an investment property, they would check that, sign it, and then do the notarizations. That's it. Very simple, nothing complicated about this. Again, another errors and omissions. Notice this time they want you to notarize this one. Now this errors and omissions says they have 30 days. That's why I say, if you're a new notary, let me come to y'all. Let me come to y'all real quick. If you are a new notary, don't get all bent out of shape. If you're like, well, I need to be able to know the documents. And that's what everybody say to me. And I'm just being joking when I say it that way, but I need to know the documents. Sometimes there are 2, 3, and I've seen 4 errors and omissions or compliance agreements or combination in there. So the first one said they had 15 days. This one said they got 30 days. What's the difference? They can read it and find out. Now, if you want to read it and meditate on it and massage it so you can give that answer, not a problem. I don't think anybody would get in any kind of legal trouble. But the document, but the signers can read the document to find out for themselves. Okay. But as a new notary, you're getting something for the last minute, just share with them the title, because you can get a chance, you have a chance to make some money, and you're like, well, I don't want to, I can't go out there because I don't know. I mean, there's 2 errors and omissions, and I don't know why they have them in there. I don't know why they got 2 different ones, and they both got 2 different dates. I mean, what if they ask me about that? What am I going to say? I can't do the signing because no, because that document, oh, no. And then you're sitting here not making any money because, or whatever, and you're heartbroken. And that is not why you got in this business. Get out there and do it. It's that simple. Just get out there and do it. Okay? Not trying to take a bite off of Nike, but just get out there and do the business. It's that simple. All right. So, errors and omissions. I mean, this year one, if you want to know what the difference is, I think this one is specifically for the Veterans Affairs, for the Housing Authority, all of them for the Veterans Affairs. So you might get a errors and omissions for one company, and then an errors and omissions from these people request, and you got to do it. And in this case, they want it notarized. Okay. There's nothing that says you need to stamp. There's nothing that says you're supposed to sign, but you are supposed to sign and you are supposed to stamp. There's no, and just because the date is up here does not mean they don't date down here. And sometimes this date isn't filled out. Sometimes this will say dated this blank day of blank. Either you or them fill that out. Right to cancel, 3 business days, not including Sunday and holidays. It's ideal to keep a copy of the right to cancel. It's a PDF that you can have on your phone that the National Notary Association provides it. This year it's blue. It's blue. Last year was red in color, so they got 2 different colors, so you'll know. And that's all. 17th to the 20th. I guess this was during the weekday, so it was clear that it was 3 business days, not including Sunday or holidays. I normally put a big old sticker here to keep them from signing. And then I tell them sign down here and date. Closing disclosure. I go over this information up here, the closing information, transaction information. The main thing in the transaction is just who the lender is. And then I read to them this 30-year refinance fixed rate, VA loan. I don't read all the loan ID and all that stuff. And then loan amount, here's your interest rate, your principal and interest payment, your escrow for your taxes and insurance. Here's your monthly payment. And then this here is just talking about a breakdown, which now this dollar amount here is higher because there's a homeowners association dues. And it says estimated taxes, insurance, and assessment. So there's a homeowners association due that's over top of this 240, but it's not included in the escrow. So that's the difference between these two numbers. So properties taxes is included in the escrow, homeowners insurance is included in the escrow, but the homeowners association dues is not. So that would be a difference. What was it? 431.67 minus the 240.67. So it's $191 difference. So association fees are $191 that they pay. Then in this case, cash on closing costs was this, and then cash that's coming back to them is 50. I think on the alter statement it said 41. If they got any questions about that, they can contact the loan officer to get clarification as to what exactly is the fee. I mean, the money coming back to them. So it's either coming to them or from them. Some companies will have this as a minus and they won't have the to or from. So if you see minus 50 or negative 50, that means it's coming back to them. That money is going to them. If there's a positive or there's no negative sign in front of it, that's money that they owe. To understand whether or not who owes what, you look at page 3 of the document, okay? Now, some instructors teach to go over this document here, the second page of the closing disclosure. I don't break all of this down. Most people will read this. Most people have already seen this because they get the closing disclosure 3 days prior to closing. And they've already looked it over. So I don't sit here and try to explain all of the different pieces to this here. And I know we've been going a while, so y'all just hang in there. So on the third page, page 3, down here, final, it tells you what cash is either coming from them or to them. If you ever get confused on that, because you'll sometimes see a negative symbol in front of the dollar amount. Don't worry about these negative symbols here, but you'll see it on the first page. You come to the third page just to check. Yep, that's what they owe. Then they go through all this, and then they sign and date. Okay. If you ever get stuck and you're like, hey, I need to call somebody, this page here has all the people who you need to call. Here's the lender, here's the settlement agent. So if there's something tricky and they need to get the loan officer, and for whatever reason they don't have the loan officer's number, you go to page 5 or whatever signature page of the closing disclosure to get their information. Told y'all I'm tired. Probably go to bed after this. W-9, social security number, just verifying it with the IRS. Then they just sign in the middle here. It's already dated. Limited corrections, corrections agreement, limited power of attorney. The main thing here is this middle section. This limited power of attorney may not be used to increase the interest rate of the undersigned. The undersigned is paying. Who is the undersigned? The borrower. Increase the terms of the undersigned's loan or ... And their name here. I got tired. I didn't change it, so I just blacked their stuff out there. But they will sign there, and then you do all the notarizations. Boom. If this notarization language, again, is not correct for your state, you attach an acknowledgement form. That's all you do. Itemization of fees to be paid by your account, on your account by you or others. They say, well, who paid this? Right here. This who pays this, you or others. Who the others? Don't know. And then acknowledgement, we the borrowers hereby acknowledge receipt of this itemization. Boom. First payment letter, just a breakdown again of their payment. That's all for the closing disclosure. First payment, February 1st, 2020. That's it, and they sign a date. Hardship, all this is saying is that this here isn't going to be a hardship for them to pay. And it would, like I said, we the undersigned borrowers understand and acknowledge that our mortgage payment for this loan or for the loan on the above referenced property may be due within 30 days of the closing. This will not create a financial hardship on us/me or me/us. In other words, they got 2 months off to pay, and then they turn around and for whatever reason, no, your loan is due in 30 days and it's going to, the first payment, and it's not going to create a hardship. That's all that's saying. Impound is another fancy word for escrow. This isn't typically already checked by the lender. Impound requested by the borrower. No, that's all this is saying, that you're getting your escrow account set up. They sign it. There's no date there. They keep going. Initial escrow, just a breakdown, the cushion here of that amount, and then they just sign and date. Flood insurance coverage, subject to change disclosure. They just read this. It talks to them about it. We may sell or transfer the servicing of your mortgage, and that the new lender servicer may require more flood insurance coverage than the minimum that has been identified by in your notice of special flood, ... That's all this is saying. They sign and date. Borrower certification authorization. This document is simply, they are certifying that the information that they have shared with them is correct, that they've given to Loan Depot or whoever, Penny Mac, Freddie Mac, whoever, is correct. And then you're authorizing them to release this information if they decide to sell the loan, and what in the information that that you're authorizing them to release. Then you're also authorizing them to release this loan, this information that they've collected from you, to any government or to government agencies who are backing the loan, which could be the Department of Defense, Veteran Affairs, or any investors to whom the Loan Depot LLC may sell my loan and mortgage to, okay? And then they sign it and date it. 4560T, simply put, this box needs to be checked saying that this person that is up here is the person who's signing it down here. They say, well, if it's a couple, they say, well, my spouse is supposed to sign this. Is the spouse name here? If the spouse name is in block 2A, then they sign down there in the spouse box. If it is not, they do not sign it. It's that simple, okay? Because a lot of times they will have their own, and they will have them sign it 2 separate ones. Then you have taxpayer consent form. Sometimes it may be called borrower's consent to use tax return or taxpayer consent form. Information is plain and simple here. They read this, and you're just giving them permission to use your tax return, and it talks about what they're going to be doing with it. Universal residential loan application. As it says here, if this is an application for joint credit, the borrower and co-borrower each agree that we intend to apply for joint credit, and then both of them sign here. If it is not, if it's just one person, they don't need to sign up here unless that company wants you to, but typically if it's for both of them, they sign it. How do you know whether or not it's two people? Right here. Section 3, borrower information. There's him, there's nobody else. That's simple. And then they go through, they have all the other pertinent information, all of that information, and then they sign here. Now, here's where a lot of people make the mistake, and I don't know why, but for some reason, and I always put arrows on these here, some signers and even some notaries have called me, some notaries and not signers calling me, but notaries have called me, do they sign here in loan originator? This is where you got to think. Let me come back to y'all for a second. The people who are in front of you are the borrowers. They are not the mortgage people. They are not loan originators. So there's no reason for them to sign as loan originators. But I've heard notaries having the borrower sign in that spot, both of them, as the loan originator, when it clearly says above it, borrower. And I've even had borrowers, go back to it, I've even had borrowers say, do I sign here where it says loan originator? And I'm like, no, right above it where it says borrower. And they're like, oh, and that's why I started putting arrows. I put arrows there for them to sign, point to where they, and as long as it seemed like long as those arrows there, there's no issues. But for some reason, some notaries, they think, well, do they sign here or do I sign there? You nor them are the loan originator. A lot of people think they're supposed to sign up here at the top. No, on this continuation, they sign down here. Plain and simple. Now, this document here throws some people off because there are two signatures required on it. This document is just basically saying that the information that you're testing, that the or agreeing, not so much a testing, but that you're basically saying that the information that you furnish, and if you read down here, it says the loan terms furnished, held, this, that, and the other. I'm sorry. The information contained in the initial loan application then was obtained by the borrower and employee of the undersigned mortgage company. Is complete and accurate. To the best of the lender's knowledge, is complete and accurate. All you're doing, all they're saying is that this information is complete and accurate. It is nothing, it's not false. And then they sign it. And then down here, you're signing it, attesting to your social security information. And then you're also attesting that you're going to occupy the residence. And then you sign the date. This document has two spots to sign and date. What I normally do is I'll put two different color arrows. Red on one side, green on the other, blue on one side, orange on the other, whichever way you want to do it. But he signs, one person signs on the left, the other person signs on the right. Then what you got here going on is this here is the interest rate, interest rate. Hold on. All right, sorry about that. So what you have here is the loan comparison, showing the comparison of the old loan versus the new. Old loan was this is how much they was paying in principal and interest at that interest rate. And then this is the principal and interest at this interest rate. This here is saying that the payment decreased by $124. That's how much they're saving. Closing costs was $5,900, and 124 times 48 gives them that dollar amount, and it's going to take them 48 months to recoup that via savings, those closing costs. And then they sign and date it. The insurance disclosure, I just tell them to read this. They sign and date it. Military counseling, sign and date it. Federal collection policy, sign and date it. The certificate, the report and certification of loan disbursement, that's for the VA, has information about from the closing disclosure about the loan. That person, and then down here, this is very important. If they don't fill out the demographics or don't want to fill out the demographic information, then they need to initial here saying that, you know, they don't want to do that, or they go ahead on and complete it. Then here's where they sign the date. Their name isn't printed there. The time from over and over, what I've been told is the time their spouse signs this only. The spouse signs this only if they are on the promissory note. Hold on. All right, so the spouse signs this only if they're on a promissory note. That is what I've been told repeatedly over and over again, okay? And then just about done. And then this is the fact notice, basically furnishing of negative information. If they don't pay their bills, they report them to the credit bureau. And then initial disclosures, just saying that they agree to have an impound statement and all of that. This is information from regarding lender contributions. If there was any contributions, they will sign and date that. Verification of VA benefits. They will sign here on line 9, dating line 10. For whatever reason, they got to make sure they let them know to sign it in ink. And that is it. That is it. So, took a little while, y'all, but we went through the whole document. It was modified, not all the information, you know, pages that would normally be there. So, I hope that was helpful to y'all. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section. Most of y'all should have my information and y'all can contact me. And if you have any other questions. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.